Marathon the game is coming out in 2025, and we have heard nothing about it for 2 years. This video is meant to speculate. This is not saying this is going to happen. This is what could potentially happen, and this is the direction that me personally I would want the game to go. If there's anything else you'd like me to add to this list, please tell me in the comments. Without further ado, this is 7 things that Bungie should incorporate in their next extraction shooter, Marathon. Since the whole hero shooter controversy is just leaks, I won't be covering it much here, but I will be covering the class shooter aspect, if you might say that, about this upcoming game that is very heavily implied within what Bungie gives us. One reason why I don't think we'll get any heroes is because Bungie has always been known for letting you customize your own character. Ever since Halo, ever since Marathon, the original game came out, ever since like Destiny, you always gotta customize your character. They never really had a voice. They were just you. And I don't see this happening with Marathon, especially if it's trying to be a spiritual successor to pretty much every single Bungie game that's going on. One other thing to put on top of this is that in Bungie's new Marathon, there probably won't be any voices unless you go into like a terminal or anything like that. Just knowing the nature of the games that happened in the 1990s. So, by the time I read this comment, I was basically done with this section for a few days, but I just had to include this. So, some dude in Jake's Discord server mentioned that he wanted more of a diverse sandbox with like weapons and abilities and whatnot. And honestly, I just wanted to include his comment in there because he explained it way better than me. Go show Jake's Discord just some love. To round off this topic, I just want to say this has all been speculation, and the speculation has been happening for months, and it's just been misconceived, I think. Yeah, it's not very clear right now. This is why I wanted to put it at the bottom and not a more important spot. Now, seeing as Marathon has a AAA budget and it is being developed as a $40 game, I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't microtransactions in the game. And I know that's not really a surprise to all of you, but I feel like Bungie could probably do good if they know what they're doing. One way I could see Bungie incorporating microtransactions into their upcoming extraction shooter is through clothes for your character, not necessarily armor pieces or anything that changes like the physical 3D models of your characters. More like paint coatings or coats or gun skins, stuff that you can use later, but stuff that doesn't really affect gameplay at all, or stuff that won't even affect gameplay at all. I'll add that. One thing that I would guess is that the cosmetics will be fairly priced, unlike how some other games do nowadays with the AAA studio thing. Is that how they implement these currencies and like how you have to pay for so much? I think the way that Marathon will do it is something in between like Tarkov and Hunt. I believe Bungie knows the difference between when you're selling cosmetics and when you're overselling cosmetics to players. I believe that it's going to be fairly reasonable for prices and whatnot, but as long as they're cosmetics, I'm chill with it, because you cannot really monetize a extraction shooter, kind of, because it has to be fair and it has to be just like locked in. You cannot, yeah. As Marathon is going to be an upcoming quote-unquote extraction shooter, I would assume that there would be some sort of inventory system to go into Marathon. And there's only like a few games to base it off of. The ones that I know are Tarkov and Gray Zone Warfare, and those all use like a grid system where you can hide weapons in your stash, and you can bring them into raids and whatnot. But I'm not sure how this game could do something like that if it's going to support controllers, which I know that controllers aren't the most accurate compared to mice. One thing that I liked about the Vidoc was they showed off all the different runners and their different like pouches on their rigs and like the magazines and whatnot. I thought that was really cool because like Tarkov, in some places on your body you can store meds and whatnot to quick access them without having to open up your inventory. I think this is a great thing, and I hope they can implement it for things such as like sidearms. A few months ago, when I was looking at just like the news about this game on YouTube, I came across these people who were talking about this one Twitter thread of this leaker who talks with Bungie people, more of an insider, and he says that you won't be able to extract like a 2011 IKEA catalog, and I thought that was a pretty funny statement, but I think that's a good thing for this game, is that you cannot extract with so many items, because in my opinion, sometimes you don't need all that, and I think that's a very good thing for this game. Most extraction shooters have some sort of a keychain or a pouch system, a secure container. And in those games, when you die, all the stuff that you have in your secure container or key pouch, that stuff does not go away when you die. So for most risky items like keys and whatnot, adding on to the secure container pouch, something that Tarkov has, and I'm not sure if any other extraction shooter on the market right now has it, they have cases that you could put into your stash that make it so that you can fit more things into your stash. For example, a scav junk box is like 4x4 in your stash, but it holds like, I think 25x25, so you can hold like a ton of items. Since this is an important part of pretty much all the extraction shooters, it has been like tossed around plenty of times, right? Of like what loot you need, and sometimes some extraction shooters you just put guns in your stash. Some extraction shooters you need like a bottle of toothpaste in your stash. I think it would be very interesting to see where Bungie goes with this and how they implement different loot items and stashes. Now, seeing as pretty much every single Bungie game is not realistic, I wouldn't expect Marathon to be realistic in the sense that it's like Tarkov, where you have water and you got energy and you got just like this whole complicated like inertia and all that. Now, in terms of movement, I don't expect this game to be more grounded and very slow paced as extraction shooters that have come up within like the last 6 years. I think that this game is gonna follow much more of like Halo. I'm not sure how like the sprinting works in Destiny, but much more like Halo, and just like that movement, but not really fast paced. Just something that doesn't feel like you're lugging something around, even though you're not. On the topic of lugging things around, I'd like to see Marathon implement some sort of a risk factor when getting an important objective, as I think that's a very fun idea, like having a one objective that everybody could target you at once. I think that would be a very fun idea, but I'm not sure that they would do something like that if it was a beginner, sort of easier, more chill extraction shooter than compared to like DMZ or Escape from Tarkov. Now, by any means do I think that video games should be realistic? No. As we know with Bungie, their games have never been realistic. And this is not really, being realistic is not really going to bring anybody in, and I don't see them doing anything realistic like how Tarkov does their stuff. Before I start covering this topic, I want to mention that this topic is the reason I make these videos. Bungie has always been good at player versus player experiences and player versus environment experiences. Now, with these two being in a game together, and with the game being more like an extraction shooter, this potentially can be one of the best games, in my opinion, to ever exist. I've played Halo for the last 8 years, and I just picked up Marathon recently. Now, one thing that I noticed between the two games is that Bungie has always had a design philosophy when it came to their PvE enemies, right? All enemies had different classes. They also walked in squads, and they also had their own purposes, if you say. In Bungie games, when you play them, sometimes the AI does not feel repeated. And what I mean by that is, think about Halo 2. When you're in Delta Halo, or you're in Metropolis. Those two levels are completely different, right? But the AIs for the elites is basically the same. And each time you go around, you'll be like, oh hey, there's that elite on that one bridge. Oh hey, there's that elite in Delta Halo, right? And you think those elites act different, right? That's what I want Bungie to do with their next game, is to improve on the AIs and treat them more like set pieces, and make it so that each AI is different in a way, to where you say, oh hey, it's a compiler. No, hey, it's that compiler. There's so many ways different PvE enemies can fit the overarching narrative and just environment of the environments that Bungie's making. Like, for example, you could see 3 fighters and think, oh hey, that area is not important. But you could also see an area with 3 troopers, and you could be like, oh hey, that area is important. Maybe they're guarding something that is really important for the story, or just something that's really powerful. There's so many ways different PvE enemies can fit the overarching narrative and just environment of the environments that Bungie's making. Now, from what I know, Bungie has done a good job on Destiny 2's player versus environment systems, and that's just what I know. I haven't played Destiny, but I hope they can do stuff from basically all their experiences combined into this one experience, and that just be the core player versus environment experience of this. Now, for this section, I would have had it more fleshed out, but now looking back at it, I don't think it's a good idea. And let me explain myself, right? Having a mode that kind of teaches you the ropes of the game, I think is a good idea. But even if it gets popular, it could remove the popularity from the first game, if that makes any sense. Right, now, I say that because making an arena mode like classic Halo could lure people away from the purpose of the main mode. But the main reason I love Escape from Tarkov's arena mode is because it teaches you the ropes of the game, and it lets you play with all the fun stuff before you have to unlock it from all the different traders throughout the region. Now, why I would like something like this is because I would want it to be in there just for making sure you know the game. Because that's the thing with Tarkov sometimes, right? Is that each raid is serious, and you can't really goof around in raids or anything really that much. And I think that's what a non-competitive kind of arena shooter mode would do. Would just help clear that ultra ultra serious game from a more leaned back casual game. Now I'm sure that Bungie knows what they're doing and they're gonna figure out how to make Marathon's gameplay as pick upable, if you can think of that word, as something like Halo. And I don't know, they probably will figure something out, and it probably couldn't involve an arena mode, but hopes are still there for additional content and whatnot. Now, when it comes to firearms in this game, I wouldn't be expecting much coming from Bungie, as they have never dealt with making customizable firearms. But the way I think they're headed is something more along the lines of Call of Duty, but way more extended, which not like limiting the amount of attachments you can have, but still not being like Tarkov, where you can like change the barrel and whatnot, and like the barrel cover and all that. Most extraction shooters nowadays have some type of ammo system to where, like, say FMJ is less penned than M855, right? And I think Marathon might lead in this direction, as their weapons are mostly based off of modern ones used nowadays. And honestly, for ammo, I hope that it's not accessible, or it's accessible, but it's not like that much of a grind to get. For example, in Escape from Tarkov, right? And I want ammo to function basically along with the attachments, because in Tarkov I'm not a big fan of how ammo depends on how much damage you do, right? I think that maybe increasing a little bit of damage for each ammo type would be a good idea, but I'm not sure if Marathon will lead in the direction of realism, to where you have different mags and you have to load bullets for each mag, right? Or if it's like, what is that game called, Delta Force, where you just press the R key and it reloads your ammo immediately, right? I don't know what's gonna happen with that game, but with Marathon, but I hope that we don't get too much of a hyper realistic ammo system, and it's more laid back and not sweaty, in my opinion. When we talk about weapons in video games, there's always a question about balancing, and I haven't played any of Bungie's newest titles, but I really hope that each weapon has like its own certain specialties, say, and I just hope that each weapon can shine in its own different space, instead of one weapon being the meta weapon and another weapon just being a sellable item. Hey, before I go, I just wanted to say that you guys are awesome for watching the end of the video, and just thank you for being around. It really means a lot. You'll enjoy your day. Uh, hey, I just want to say thank you guys for the support, and without further ado, welcome to the video.